Good morning. It's 10 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started with this webinar. Just a few pieces of housekeeping. All attendees are in listen-only mode at this time. If you have a question throughout the presentation, please feel free to type it in the chat box, and I will address it at the end of the webinar. Also, at the end of the webinar, if you would like to ask a question verbally, please raise your hand, and I will unmute you. Thank you all for attending this webinar. My name is Kristen Vreeland, and I'm a Grants Administrator at the Office of Student Access and Completion. I'm going to talk about finding funds for foster youth. I will talk about our general OSAC programs and then really focus on our Chafee Education and Training Grant. A little background about OSAC. We're the Office of Student Access and Completion located in Eugene. We're Oregon's only state financial aid agency. We were established in 1959 and administer a variety of state, federal, and privately funded student financial aid programs. So I'm going to talk about financial aid during this presentation, and it's important to know the different kinds of financial aid. First, there are scholarships. Our OSAC scholarships can be applied for through our OSAC student portal. OSAC also administers grants. Some of the federal grants can be applied for just by filling out the FAFSA. Other state grants might require a FAFSA and an application through the OSAC student portal. If students would like to file a FAFSA, they go to FAFSA.ed.gov. The Office of Student Access and Completion has many outreach programs. First, we have the Aspire program, which is Aspire and Outreach. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We also administer scholarships, one application for over 500 scholarships. We also have several state grant opportunities, such as the Oregon Promise, the Oregon Opportunity Grant, and the Chafee Grant, which I will focus on at the end of this webinar. Today, we will hear a little bit about our Aspire mentoring program and our outreach efforts here at OSAC. We'll talk about the OSAC Scholarship Application, our other state grants, and then focus on the Chafee Grant for foster youth. Our Aspire mentoring and OSAC outreach programs help students access education and training beyond high school. If you're working with students or are a student at an Aspire high school, you can access a mentor to help you one-on-one with your scholarship and college applications and help you through the process of submitting and keep on track with deadlines. We also have many online tips, updates, podcasts, and social media tools available through our website at OregonStudentAid.gov. You can find links to all of our social media. You can follow us on Facebook and get timely information about deadlines and applications opening. OSAC also presents at FAFSA completion events and financial aid nights around the state. If you have a local financial aid night or would like to host one, you can request an OSAC presenter through our OSAC website, OregonStudentAid.gov. The OSAC Scholarship Application is one application for over 500 scholarships. We award over $16 million a year, and the average award is around $2,700. One thing to note is that we don't disclose the amount of each scholarship. It's easy to add multiple scholarships to your one application, so we don't tell students exactly how much each scholarship is, but we do encourage them to apply for all that they're eligible for. So in order to apply for this OSAC scholarship, students need to go to OregonStudentAid.gov and start a student profile inside our student portal. It's much like all other online applications. They'll need a username and password that they'll have to remember to log in order to complete their application. OSAC has scholarships for many types of students. Some of our scholarships will require no financial need. Other scholarships are based on employer and membership programs. We have many scholarships for graduating high school seniors, but we also have scholarships for undergraduate and graduate programs. The OSAC Scholarship Program deadlines are as follows. We have an early bird deadline, which is February 15th, 2018, this year. Please note that our deadlines are 5 p.m. They're not midnight. That's a good thing to tell students because they're used to waiting till the last minute. If students submit by the early bird deadline and have an error-free application, they're entered into a drawing for another $1,000 scholarship. If for some reason they uploaded the incorrect transcript and they submit by the early bird deadline, we can contact those students and let them know they have an incorrect transcript so that they can fix it by the final deadline. The final deadline for all documentations and all required parts of our application to be completed is March 1st. This application deadline is also 5 p.m. If you're working with students or are a student, please do not wait till the last minute. It's just really important to get things done on time and early if possible, so that you're not stuck at 4:59 uncertain of whether you submitted by the 5 p.m. deadline. Our scholarship application has 4 parts. The first part is a personal statement. Each of these statements is a maximum of 150 words each. They are 2-part questions that we ask the students to answer both parts on. Some of the questions ask for specific details, and please encourage students to include those details. This is the part of the application where students can really tell their story above and beyond the geographic and GPA information asked on the application. We also require an activities chart. The activities chart has 3 different types of activities that we ask students to report. The first type is school activities, any sort of activity they're involved in school, such as sports, band, clubs, organizations, things like that. We ask for volunteer activity. That can be with civic organizations, religious groups, either that or just volunteering in the community. And we also ask for paid work history. We know that not all students have paid work history. Students can opt out of one type of these activities, so if they don't have any paid work history, they can opt out of that section. We also require that students upload transcripts. This will be high school transcripts for graduating high school seniors or college transcripts for current college students. This is something that is the #1 reason for rejection on our applications. So we really want to make sure students have the correct transcripts. All of the transcript requirements will be outlined in the application based on the type of student they are. They have several ways to get their transcripts to us. Graduating high school seniors can select to have the registrar upload the transcripts for them. Students can mail an unofficial version of their transcript to OSAC in the mail, but please note that we have to receive and process it by 5 o'clock on the deadline. So if they're going to use that, they need to make sure to mail it early. They can also upload the transcripts themselves as a PDF file. It's very important if they're uploading their own transcript that they make sure that it's legible, we can read it, and that it includes all the pages that they meant to upload, and students can click on the file and look at what they uploaded just to double check that. There are certain scholarships that will require additional documents or essays. We always encourage students to apply for the scholarships that require additional essays because a lot of the time the applicant pool will be smaller and makes them more likely to be awarded. Plus, it's a really good chance for them to tell their story to the scholarship selection committees. OregonStudentAid.gov is where the students will sign into their OSAC student portal. After they submit their application, we ask that they print it. We also ask that students log in after the deadline and verify that their application was accepted. If there are any issues on their application, they will show up in the portal, and students will also be required to either accept or decline the scholarships they're awarded. When they log into their student profile on our student portal, they will see a list of the scholarships that they applied for. In that list of scholarships, as they're awarded, it will let the student know if they've been awarded the scholarship, it will ask them to accept or decline the scholarship. If the scholarship was awarded to other applicants, it will say the scholarship has been awarded to other applicants. That way the students can check to see that all the scholarships they've applied for have been awarded and then move on. You can update your student personal contact information, college choice, and college major. This is very important for students to do because if a student is awarded a scholarship or a grant and they have not changed the college they're attending, we're going to send the money to the college that's on their application. If for some reason the student has not told us that they have changed college, we have to wait to get that money back before we can send it to the correct college the student is actually attending. So definitely encourage students to keep their college choice and college major up to date. On the screen are some additional scholarship resources. We definitely have OregonStudentAid.gov and some links on there, and some other websites that we recommend searching for scholarships through. I'm going to talk a little bit about our other state grants. First, I'm going to talk about the Oregon Opportunity Grant. In order for students to apply for the Oregon Opportunity Grant, they need to fill out a FAFSA and indicate that they are an Oregon resident. There's no other additional application that they need to complete for the Oregon Opportunity Grant. They will need to put an eligible Oregon institution on their FAFSA as one of the schools they would like to attend. You can find a complete list of the eligible institutions on our website in the Grants tab under Oregon Opportunity Grant. So a reminder, the FAFSA does open October 1st, so they can apply for the Oregon Opportunity Grant as soon as October 1st. Make sure that they list one of the Oregon colleges on their application. The award amount for the 2017-18 school year was $2,250. This is for a full-time student. Students are allowed to enroll half-time and still receive this grant funding. They need to enroll 6 credits, and they will receive a prorated award amount of half of the full-time award. Oregon Opportunity Grant awards are prioritized by the lowest estimated family contribution. That means that students with a 0 EFC are awarded first. This year we have awarded students with an EFC up to $3,000. Another great grant for our students to apply for is the Oregon Promise Grant. This grant does require that the students submit a FAFSA and an Oregon Promise application in our student portal. This grant is for recent high school graduates or GED completers. They have to enroll in an Oregon community college within 6 months of graduation. This is very important. There are rolling deadlines for those students who are going to graduate early, so be sure to check our website for those deadlines. Students must have a 2.5 cumulative GPA or higher. This is verified through the high school, and they have to be Oregon residents at least 12 months prior to enrollment. So basically, to receive our Oregon Opportunity Grants and the Oregon Promise, they have to attend college at least part-time. Remember to remind students, or if you are a student, take 6 credits per term. Apply on our OSAC student portal and fill out your FAFSA. We do have a FAFSA alternative for DACA students and undocumented students called the ORSA. And if you cannot complete the FAFSA, you can complete the ORSA. You can find a link to it on our website. And be sure to list Oregon colleges on your FAFSA or ORSA to be eligible for these grants. So now I'm going to jump into the Chafee Education and Training Grant. This is a federally funded program for former foster youth. Eligible applicants need to attend any accredited post institution within the United States. This is one of our few grants that can be taken out of state. So if a student wants to go out of state to a California school or a school in any other state, they're allowed to take the funds with them. The eligibility requirements are that a foster youth must have been in care at least 180 days after their 14th birthday and not have exited care before the age of 16. So this requirement is actually checked by the Department of Human Services. They're the ones that check the eligibility on the requirement of the 180 days. So this is something that DHS helps us figure out. That's something to let the students know if they're worried about privacy. OSAC never receives their care records or anything like that. We let the DHS office let us know if they qualify or if they're eligible. Applicants, they need to apply and be receiving funding before their 21st birthday. So this is a really important one if you have a foster youth who's turning 21 in the summer or fall. Make sure that they're in school and receiving the funds before their 21st birthday. Sometimes there are special circumstances in which DHS will make an exception for a student who might have turned 21 the day before the term started or something of that nature. You can contact DHS for an exception request, and you can always email me if you have a student with this circumstance. If a student starts receiving funds on their 21st birthday, they may receive funds until their 23rd birthday. They have to have been in foster placement through the Oregon Department of Human Services or a federally recognized Native American tribe. Again, we rely on DHS and the tribes to certify that the students were in care during the time frame necessary to be eligible. So how do students get access to this grant? They need to apply on the student portal, OregonStudentAid.gov. And since a student can start in any term with this grant, there are some rolling deadlines. So if a student wants to start fall term, August 1st is the deadline for them to have submitted their application. Winter term, November 1st. These deadlines will not change from year to year, but please keep in mind that sometimes if a student has missed the fall term deadline, they might not be eligible for the full award if they only attend winter and spring term. Students also must file a FAFSA in order to gain access to this grant. So after a student has filed their FAFSA, as well as their application in the OSAC student portal at OregonStudentAid.gov, like I said, the Oregon Department of Human Services, they confirm whether or not the student is eligible based on the time they were in foster care. After that, we send the funds directly to the college. Funds are sent once each academic period, depending on if you're in a quarter or semester school. That will depend on how frequently it is. The school processes the financial aid package and then gives the student the refund of any extra funds after all charges are taken care of. So the school refund times will really depend on the institution they go for. Another common question I get asked is if the Chafee education funds can only be used for tuition and fees. Chafee Education and Training Grant can be used for what we call the cost of attendance, which includes room and board, transportation, and other things. So that money that is included in the refund can be used for those. So how is the award amount calculated for Chafee? The total award amount for any student in an academic year is $5,000. But what we do is we calculate the remaining unmet need. And so we take that total cost of attendance, which is calculated individually for each institution depending on their tuition rates, and then we subtract all the other financial aid that the student has received, such as the Pell Grant, possibly the Oregon Promise, the tuition fee waiver, things like that. We subtract, and then that gives us the remaining unmet need for that student. So the remaining unmet need, if that need exceeds $5,000, they will get the maximum award of $5,000. If that remaining unmet need is less than $5,000, they will receive the remaining unmet needs total. So why would a student not receive the maximum $5,000 award? Sometimes they'll apply too late to receive the full year of funding. If a student was attending college fall, winter, and spring and just now filled out their Chafee application, they would not meet the fall term deadline. So they would only get the disbursement for spring and winter. If the unmet need is less than $5,000, like I said, the grant will only equal the amount of the unmet need. So sometimes students have not been awarded and they're wondering why. So there is a process called verification that happens through the financial aid offices at the colleges, and sometimes, especially our low-income students, they get selected for the verification process. And sometimes schools will ask them for tax information, word of the court documentation, other documents might be required by the financial aid office, such as proof of their GED or their high school diploma. This is something that we need to support students through, but it has to happen directly with the financial aid office in order for them to complete the verification process. Students should always stay in contact with their school. Make sure that they contact OSAC if they have a change in college or if they decide not to attend school. Make sure that they're following up with the colleges themselves if they're selected for verification, so that even after they fill out all the applications and they're eligible and we're ready to send the award, we want to make sure that they get through that final process with the financial aid department in order to receive the funds. Something to note about the Oregon Opportunity Grant is that there's priority awarding for foster youth. So that means that no matter how late in the year the foster youth file their FAFSA, they'll receive the Oregon Opportunity Grant as long as they meet all their eligible criteria. This is something that was a part of the Oregon legislature a few years back. Oregon Community College and public four-year universities also offer the tuition and fee waiver for foster youth. This is something that they can inquire about at the financial aid office at their college. We do have some other resources, so I definitely want to let you know that FAFSA.gov is where they go and they file the FAFSA. There is a FAFSA forecaster at FAFSAforecaster.gov. There are also some other resources available online. They can always contact the college financial aid office also. There might be institutional aid that they can gain access to through the college themselves, and we definitely encourage them to apply for that. This is my information. I am the grants administrator for the Chafee Education and Training Grant. If at any time you have any questions, general questions or specific questions about your students that you are the ILP provider for, or if you are a student and have questions, you can contact me at any time. Phone number, email, that all works, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions. So we got through this pretty quickly. At this time, I would like to ask if anyone has any questions. You can raise your hand as an attendee, or you can type your questions in the chat box. So I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you all for attending this webinar. I look forward to working with you and your foster youth students in the future. Have a great day.